Hi and welcome to Simply Ballers 2024-2025 season previews. It's that time of the year where for the next 30 days I'll be releasing a season preview for each team. In each preview there will be a quick season and off-season recap. Then following that we'll be looking at what's in store for each team. We'll be looking at some of the key questions that they have, some of the positives, some of the negatives. It will be digging deeper in some of those areas. And at the end there are some final thoughts with prediction of the standings, their floor, their ceiling, some of the playoff chances and some other fun predictions. So today we're going for the Cleveland Cavaliers. This was a rather disappointing season for them considering everything they had to deal with. A lot of it just has to do with unfortunate circumstances which involved a bunch of guys missing time. These were the games played for the top players. Donovan Mitchell played 55 games, Darius Garland played 57, Jarrett Allen led them with 77 and Evan Mobley played 50. When it's like that, when it's three of the top four guys playing 57 games or less, it's going to feel frustrating, disappointing and annoying to watch, knowing that they could have been better if they were healthy. That four together only appeared in 28 games. They went 18-10 and had a plus 2.8 net with a 116.5 offense. The individual stats were also solid, but even with all four on, they were plus 2.6 with a 115.4 offense. So there were still some holes and concerns when they were playing together, but you couldn't even see a big sample or try to fix that because they just couldn't play together with being injured. They won when they played together, period, but they weren't much better than they were when they're on the court. That's another concern. And that has been a question for them over these two seasons, where they have some of the fit issues with the two front court guys with Mobley and Allen, and the two back court guys with Mitchell and Garland. So there are some question marks when it comes to their core. Their net rating jumped from to plus 5.9 with a 118 offense if it was only two of the top four players on. So there were still so many questions for them that they couldn't address, and that makes the whole season disappointing. They still ended up as the 4th seed though, and their playoff aspirations weren't going to be higher considering their injury luck did follow them as well. Allen only played 4 games and Mitchell missed 2 games against the Celtics. So throughout the season they had to deal with injuries and they couldn't even make it to the playoffs healthy, and that just ended their season. But what else were they meant to do? They definitely underachieved, but there's only so much you can do when your guys are not playing at all. For the off season, there were already so many rumours heading into it, with Mitchell potentially asking out, potentially getting traded. That was quickly shut down with him signing the extension. They have nothing to worry about for now. This was the best thing that could have happened for the Cavaliers. They got the commitment for him, and now they can continue to make a contender around him and the core. On top of the extension, they extended Mobley and Allen, and they brought back Isaac Okoro. The one significant change in the offseason was firing JB Bickerstaff and hiring Kenny Atkinson. A change of coach is sometimes needed, and this could be the spark that they needed. They probably didn't need to reshuffle the entire roster, especially now with the new coach. That could sometimes be enough to set a team to go forwards a lot more. So this team is running back with the same players, but hoping they can make it work the third time around, being healthy with a new coach and a new system. So what's in store for the Cavaliers? Can the best players finally fit together? It's making sure that they work on both ends of the floor when they're all on the court. Does the double big lineup work as well as they can be? Should they continue to go down the double big lineups? What potential can we see from Mobley offensively? Can he survive being the 5 for most of the minutes? Can Mitchell reach the top 10 level? We've seen what he can do. We've seen that what he's done in Utah. We've seen what he's done this year as well. Can he continue getting it better and probably reach that top 10, top 15 level, period? What's the deal with Garland? Because I think they should explore trading him. There are some concerns. I've seen some of the concerns with like his game already, and is still banking a lot on him just keep improving. That hasn't happened yet. Can the offense improve without sacrificing defense? Will they make their wing position work with what they have? Because the wing position, their 5th starter, has been an issue these last 2 seasons, and they really haven't addressed that yet. What are the goals for this build even? Should they go all in on Mitchell, or should they just continue to just take those two timelines with just the young core and not going all in? So the first thing is going to be figuring out, can all of the players work together well? There's both Garland and Mitchell finding ways to be more effective together as two ball dominant guards. Then there are the big issues with Mobley and Allen, where defensively it works fine. Defensively there are no issues, but offensively it makes some of the fit clunky. There's a reason why they've been so good on the defensive end, where the first season they were second in the league, but there's some issues when it comes to the offense. That's why they haven't been at the top when it comes to that, especially this year. Then there's just how all those two lineups, those two groups working together, because we've seen them play at a much better level when it was just one of them on with one of the bigs. Going through both Garland and Mitchell, with both of them on, they were +4 with a 116 offense in 750 minutes. Mitchell averaged 25 points per 75 on 59% true shooting, with 28% usage and 5 assists. Garland averaged 17 points on 55% true shooting, with 22 usage and 7 assists. With Garland off but Mitchell on, they were +8.8 with a 118 offense in 1,192 minutes. Mitchell averaged 29 points on 59% true shooting, with 32% usage. With Mitchell off and Garland on, they were -0.1 with 115 offense in over 1,000 minutes. Garland averaged 22 points on 55% true shooting, with 27% usage and under 8 assists. So there are question marks on all ends. There are question marks with Mitchell off and Garland on. There are question marks with both of the guards on. Continuing to look at the differences when they're both on and off. For the season, they have around the same touches. Garland led the team in with touches at 81.4 per 36 minutes. Mitchell was right next to him at 80.6. Garland also led the team in time of possession at 6.6, an average seconds per touch of 5.26, and average dribble with 5.12. But then because of health issues, we saw them play without another for a good stretch. And that's where we can see how good this team was with two of those guards in different roles, as a ball dominant guard, any only one of them. In 19 games with Mitchell playing and Garland not, they went 14-5 and they were +10 with a 118 offense. It's also worth noting that Mobley didn't play those games either, so this was Mitchell and Allen for the entire stretch. Mitchell averaged 30 points per 75 on 60% true shooting, with 33% usage and 7 assists. 15 of those games came in December and January, where the Cavaliers went 12-3. Mitchell dominated the ball with 89 touches per 36 minutes, and he had a 7.3 time of possession. He was the engine of the offense, and that clearly had good results. But then looking at Garland without Mitchell, in 21 games they went 9-12. The Cavaliers were -2.2 with a 115 offense. With Garland on, Garland averaged 22 points on 56% true shooting, with 27% usage. And in the 15-game stretch, with Mitchell, in March, Garland also dominated the ball with 89 touches with 7.5 time of possession. So that we have two reasonable sample size with just one of the guards dominating the ball, and there are two very different results. So there are a couple of things to note there. This team clearly worked at its best when it was Mitchell dominating the ball, and that's where the offense worked and thrived. That also happened with Mobley missing time, so that has to be considered. Allen and Mitchell clearly worked. That's when their offense was just at its best. Whenever Mitchell missed time, though, Garland was in the same position with Mobley missing time as well, and the team wasn't good. So I wonder what direction will they go in this year. Who will they take the back seat? Is it going to be Garland adapting his game a lot more? Do you maximize Mitchell by going more with him dominating the ball? Do you maximize him even more to make sure that he plays more with Allen? So that's what makes the rotation bit more confusing and a bit more complicated to go through. But then there are other questions with Garland. Why isn't the offense as good with Garland? What is it about him that he can't do with Allen and everyone else that in the same way as Mitchell can? Is that because of the rest of the team, or is it because of his limitations? Because I sometimes wonder what even is the ceiling with Garland. What kind of player is he? He's a small guard who relies on shooting and is a great passer, but isn't entirely efficient inside the arc or draws a lot of fouls. That does hinder your ceiling, and he's going to be 25 heading into his 6th season. There is going to be a conversation around him with the fit, and that does probably lead to a conversation about him possibly getting traded. When it comes to Mitchell, though, he's showing he's a clear top 20 player that has the potential to go even further. He has the potential to be a top 15, top 10 player even. He has shown that in the playoffs too. He's also had a rough series in the playoffs recently as well. But he's still one of the best guards in the league. He has been improving both as a scorer and a passer. And I wonder what even is the ceiling still for him, because he has shown those improvements that he can be one of the best players on a championship level team. The growth is steady. He was 10th in estimated plus minus this year, but can he take more leaps? Can he still be put in a position where he's a lead guard as a ball dominant guard and be much better as a passer? They did give him the maximum extension, so there is that level of expectation now. But if he does take those steps, it makes everything else for them so much easier. But then they also have the questions of the two bigs. Both Mobley and Allen work well defensively. That has been their identity these 2 seasons, and especially they need to have that with 2 small guards as their backcourt. I wonder how that's going to work now, especially with a new coach. In 2024, with Allen on Mobley off, they were +6 in over 1,600 minutes, with a 119 offensive rating and a 113 defensive rating. Mobley on, Allen off, they were only +0.4 in over 700 minutes, with a 113 offense and a 113 defense. Both on, they were +1.5 in over 700 minutes, with 115 offensive rating and 113 defensive rating. But then looking at past seasons, is a similar trend. Allen on, Mobley off, +7.5 in 800 minutes, with a 117 offense, 109 defensive rating. Mobley on, Allen off, +4 in over 1,200 minutes, with 115 offense and 111 defense. Both on, +8.1 in over 1,500 minutes, with 120 offense and 112 defense. So there are some conflicting data. This year, again, in 2 of those seasons, it has shown that they can work together. It has shown that they can work, especially defensively. They have shown again in both years that their offense does get better with Allen. Allen is a better big offensively than Mobley, with his screening, with some of the passing he also has, and his rim finishing. So there's a better fit there offensively. The defense works with one of them on, it works with 2 of them on. Now it's just a question of what direction they will go down on. Because although Allen has been and has done a better job as a big when it comes to just making the offense better, Mobley has the potential to be more. He obviously is only 23 years old and was already an old defensive kind of player, and has made huge jumps offensively. He's improved his 3-point scoring when he went from 54% to 59% to 60% this year. He's improved his efficiency significantly since his rookie season. He also had a much better playoff series this year compared to last year. He looked rough against the Knicks, and that changed so much this year. He almost shot 60% in the playoffs, and the way he did that was looking great too. So what's the next step for him offensively? Is it a step as a scorer, a spacer, maybe being used more as a passer? Can he improve offensively enough as a shooter to make the lineups with Allen more viable? Because if he can turn himself into a much more impactful offensive player, both off the ball and on the ball, you're adding that to an already a good offense with Allen on. But a lot of that would just depend on his growth as a shooter as well, because has been the biggest issue. I was thinking of just if Mobley does take those big jumps, can he just be the sole 5 on this team, and that could open up exploring a trade for Allen. But then on the other hand, in their first year together, they were dominant as the core 4. They were +8.9 in over 800 minutes, with 122 offense and 113 defense. They were dominant, so there is still a good enough sample size of them working out together on both ends of the floor, and that was with Mobley not being as good as he was this year. So Kenny Atkinson will probably have a big decision just on how to approach all of this, because is there a way to go back to how they were in 2022, in 2023? I mean, with how they were dominant both offensively and defensively. Then there's still the rest of the team, and I still wonder about the wing position. That was the question last year. They have Mark Struess, Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, Georges Niang, and Sam Merrill, and Karis LeVert. I'm not sure who I feel comfortable with. There are pluses and negatives for each one of them. They all bring something different, and it's another case of just, do you prioritize defense? Do you prioritize shooting? Do you prioritize spacing? What is it that you need from that wing? Because whatever you get from one of them, you're not getting something from them that you could get from the other one else. You get Max Struess for the shooting spacing, but then he's also not the defender that Isaac Okoro is. You get Karis LeVert for some of the ball handling, but then he's not the defender or the passer that everyone else is. You may get someone like Dean Wade, but then he isn't as strong as defensively either, or has the on-ball capabilities. So that's one of the main questions last year, and this still continues to be this year. Are there any moves to work that out? They have a handful of them that they could move for someone better. Maybe shuffling some of those players. Finally, I want to just ask, what even is the goal for this team in the long term? Like when they made a trade for Mitchell, that was a significant move, and they still had those two young players in Garland and Mobley. They had Allen, who was still relatively young. But what's next? Is it just continuing to play those two timelines with Mitchell being elite and the other just being young that still needs to look to improve? Or should they make moves to accelerate the build and just go more all in? Was the point in trading for Mitchell, who could reach a top 10 caliber, if the rest of the team might not be ready to compete yet? It feels like they still just don't want to push their chips in one direction yet, and it's just playing the two lineups, because I can see a case for trading Garland to have a better fit next to Mitchell, next to Mobley and Allen, where it's a more win now mode. They did bring in Atkinson, who could change all of that, who could make some of the leaps more likely to happen. So now it's just banking on all of that, all the young players improving. But if they don't, if it's another similar season, they should consider just going all in on the whole Mitchell-Mobley core. So predictions, I see them as a 48-55 win. Their floor is a 5th seed with still having a bunch of questions. Their ceiling is a top 2 seeds with their core just going back to how they were. They are more dominant, they are better, and they sorted whatever they needed to sort out. So this team will still be good. Even with all of the issues, concerns and questions they may have, they have a pretty high floor to me. They've shown that since in these 2 seasons. They had the second best defense in 2 years ago with a 7th best offense. Last year they dealt with all those injuries and they were still close to being a 50-win team, and they were still good. The regular season should not be an issue to them. The most important thing will be how will Atkinson just make everything work with Mitchell and Garland, with Mobley and Allen. It was just seeing how can the core 4 together bounce back to the levels that they were in 2023. I do like what we saw from Mobley. A random tidbit that I saw that I'm not sure how much Atkinson was part of, but when Atkinson took over the Nets in 2017, that was the year that Brook Lopez saw a massive increase and became a legit 3-point threat. He was also the coach of Allen in the first 2 seasons, where he saw him develop into a quality starter. Can we see that in Mobley? Can we see him approach the same way with Lopez and Allen, where he becomes a better passer or becomes a legitimate 3-point shooting threat? Finally, I just want to see how they will handle with the way they handle the offseason and the changing coach. I'm not sure if I'm going to be expecting a drastic move at the deadline or anything, but I want to see if they can just reshuffle some of the wings to continue to get players that fit more and just go more all in on this team, because their ceiling could be really good if they make a handful of just smaller moves and the core sorts itself out with the fit issues. They can be a legit contender. So overall, this should be a very important season for them. It's year 3 of the build. They know what questions they have. They have a new coach. This is the year for them to either make the changes, bounce back, or it's time to rethink some of it then in the next off season, which will be probably this will probably be the year for them before drastic changes.